Chef Jack here, and welcome to the Hospitable U Industry Leaders Interview Series, where we will be talking to hospitality professionals and noteworthy individuals in the industry to see what drives them forward and what's made them successful. Today we're here at Mabel Gray with Chef James Rigato. We've known each other for quite some time.
Yeah.
We used to work together. It was back early 2000s.
Yeah, I think it was 04, 05.
Yeah. So introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm James Rigato. This is my restaurant, Mabel Gray, here in Hazel Park. We opened up about 6.5 years ago. We're kind of known for an 8-course tasting menu. We do kind of chef's choice, so we change the menu pretty frequently. It's probably about a full change every week, and then daily changes as well. So it's definitely, we make our jobs a lot harder than we have to here, and but we enjoy it, and the customer base is pretty engaged as well.
I'd love to be able to do that. Where I'm at, the world I live in right now, we have to have certain things, staples, bring people back.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of restaurants are like that, and that's perfectly fine. I think that the longer I spend in the industry, the more I kind of embrace and understand every kind of outlet. I mean, there's room for fast food, there's room for buffets, there's room for insane tasting menus.
Right.
So I think that knowing your audience and knowing how to please them is the most important thing. So yeah, if you have like regulars that love those standbys and classics, I know me. I go to spots because I want a certain thing.
Right.
So we're just as guilty as the customers that we sometimes feel maybe stifled by.
Right.
But yeah, and we definitely have some dishes that we bring back. But I think that part of our shtick here is expect the unexpected, and there's zero reliability for dishes. It's like, even if you see it on Instagram, just forget you ever saw it, because it's like it's gone.
It may or may not ever come back.
Yeah, we are not a reliable source for sometimes people show up and they're like, "Oh, you're vegan this week?" Like they don't even know.
Right.
We just pivot pretty quickly.
You've got a couple that come back quite often. Like you do do you still do that pork belly?
Honestly, pork's been a while, but yeah, I did a pork belly for years. I think right now we do
ricotta gnocchi, or
we do. I mean, gnocchi for sure. Pasta. I'd say our arrabbiata shows up a lot. We do a lot of arrabbiata. It's on the menu this week. Pastas. I used to do the porchetta a lot, but our farm used to get these suckling pigs from kind of didn't last through COVID. So and that's another thing too, is if a vendor pivots or changes or things get more difficult or scallop prices get too high, I just change it.
Right.
So the profitability of a tasting menu constantly changing is great, because if I have 5 pounds of halibut, I can use it on a tasting menu and switch mid-menu, so I can utilize everything to the final end, which is nice, because there's no menu change, 30 pounds of pork left over, what do you do with it?
Right. Or the price goes up and you can't get it.
You're stuck with it.
Right, yeah, you're stuck with buying beef at $10 more a pound than it used to be.
Yeah, totally. I don't do that.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So what was your first restaurant job?
My first job was in a diner called Silverman's, and I was a dishwasher. And dishwasher / busser, and I was probably only there for a few months, and I kind of got my butt kicked. It was a highway robbery job. They took the taxes out themselves and then paid me my post tax wage, but then I never filed it. So I think I made $3 an hour,
Right.
And then I went to flipping pizzas at Papa John's, and I was there for this is '99, and I was there for about a year and a half, and so I think pizza is kind of my first time I actually cooked food. So that was my first love is pizza, for sure.
My first job was a dishwasher at Ramshorn.
Oh yeah, I mean pretty much the same job.
Right, exactly. Where did you go to culinary school?
I went to Schoolcraft in Livonia, so it is a community college here in Michigan, and we're pretty lucky. I mean, I was in driving range of the school, and I'd say that it was I probably would have sought it out because of its value. It was about $21,000, I think, for me for the 3-year program. Maybe even less. I'm trying to factor in books and everything. But yeah, it was about, for about $20,000, I got a pretty stellar culinary education. And if you compare it to there's other schools in the country that are more famous, like CIA.
Right.
But I mean, price wise, I think I was 6 master chefs. 12 students per class. It was pretty incredible.
Right, and that was 20 some years ago.
This is 20 years. Yeah. Well, no, I guess I enrolled in 03. So it was 18 and a half years ago. Right.
So I wonder what the tuition costs have gone up to.
I think they have gone up, but Schoolcraft still remains a pretty incredible bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of the people that I grew up in the industry with around here went to school.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So what would you say is your overarching philosophy behind the menu here?
Yeah, I mean for the menu, it's definitely like what I like to eat is probably like the benchmark of what we do here. But I also really love to travel. So for me, like taking my travels and incorporating them into the menu is probably the most important part. Especially like, there's a lot of like awareness now for what food you make and who it's connected to, and there's a lot of appropriation. And I try to really, respectfully take what I've traveled and learned and apply it to my menu. But I never want to like, carbon copy or misrepresent. So I find that my travel is really dictated because I want to be as authentic as possible, without stepping on any toes or cooking things that really don't have a purpose or a point from my point of view.
Right.
Like I'll be like, for me, there's a lot of cuisines out there that there's a lot at stake and there's a lot of history. And if you I'm just like gonna make it because it's fun, you can really be insensitive.
Yeah, for sure. I am painfully aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, you're somebody who makes sushi, and that's something that or even like derivatives of Japanese cuisine. And Japan is actually one of those countries that I've found that are pretty resilient, and they're kind of always looking forward, and they're always evolving.
Yeah.
Like even like ramen came over from China, and like sushi essentially originated in Korea.
Right.
So there's a lot of this like reinvention and kind of like evolution.
Yeah, they kind of take other people's ideas and kind of like squirrel them away and obsess about them, and then like re-release them something
and usually
brand new
and usually better.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And I think that's celebratory. So I think Japan's one of those countries that really they love innovation.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's certain cuisines that like I think like when you see somebody like fry bread, for instance, is something where like I don't think that like a lot. I'll see it on a menu sometimes, and I'm like, that's a Native American dish that's pretty representation of like suffering and like impoverished conditions.
Yeah,
I don't think
let them have that.
I don't think that's even appropriate to like consider, or like it's just like that. There's things like that where I'm like that's out of touch. That's insensitive.
Right.
So I try to like navigate my cooking through that lens because I'm a white dude born in Michigan. There's only so many. Obviously, I have Italian history in my family, but like there's only so many influences that we have. In our native like world, like Southeast Michigan, so I'm very inspired by like the Arabic population or the Italian American population. Like, they directly influence your food, and it's what we grow up eating.
Right.
If you're from here, you grow up eating shawarma. It's like in your blood. So I feel like when I use a Middle Eastern spice, my business partners are Chaldean, for instance. Like I feel connected to it in a way. Like obviously, I'm not from the Middle East, but like you grow up eating it, you grow up
around it, and it becomes part of your culture, your culinary identity.
Yeah, totally. I feel like, and I do that a lot with Italian food. I'll do like Chaldean curry spiced like red sauce for like a braised meatball, or like a skewer, a liver, like a liver skewer smothered in like a Chaldean curry tomato sauce with like pecorino. Like it's those things. They work in my head.
Right. Yeah, I recently in investigating some Chinese regional cooking, found that the northeastern China, the Xinjiang province, is right up against the Middle East, so it has incorporated all of these Middle Eastern flavors that I'm very familiar with into Chinese cooking. Right. So that was kind of my way into that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's super exciting to travel to these kind of regions and like learn about it firsthand. Yeah. And I think like luckily for the changing menu, like I don't really want to make I don't want to make profit off of somebody else's identity. And I think that's really the line that you need to walk. I think with cooking nowadays is like I don't want to misrepresent a cuisine that I don't know anything about.
Right.
Hey, can you guys like just chill on that for a second? Thank you.
Okay, so elephant in the room. How's the pandemic affected your business?
Yeah, so for us, the pandemic was pretty intense, like everyone else, I guess. But like we're based, I mean, our 70% of our income is an 8-course tasting menu. Right. So like you not only to get rid of like indoor dining, but you basically get rid of like dining, period. So we pivoted like crazy. I mean, I probably overdid it. I think a core group of us worked like a really ridiculous amount.
No.
Yeah, like
you overdid it.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So we definitely we were only like I think a few $100,000 shy of like a normal year because we pivoted so crazy. Like I was doing virtual cooking classes. Like we would do curbside carry out and outdoor dining and like meal kits. And then on Sundays I would do, virtual cooking classes for like literally 90 to 100 people on Zoom and like delivering food boxes. So like we definitely went crazy. And then the PPP kicked in and I kept everyone on payroll. So we just like PPP, the first round, everything went to the payroll. We paid everyone in the 8 weeks. Just, we just like I just wanted to be a machine. I wanted to be as busy and as available to the public as we always are. So I feel lucky that we kept everyone intact. No one got laid off, and the business survived. But it definitely took a huge blow to me, like my mental health and like my, I suffered some burnout kind of last January. Just like it was like I felt like like Rocky in the 15th round. I was like, I couldn't even like see the crowd anymore.
Right.
But it was worth it, but I definitely don't, the fatigue was real. So we survived. Everyone stayed employed was probably the most important part for me. It was definitely the most important part.
Right.
No one got laid off.
Right on.
So that was the most important part. But yeah, we survived. We were down. Like I said, our sales were down, but we stayed open. We pivoted so hard that like we took a loss, but it wasn't epic.
Good. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I aged 5. I'm going to die 5 years younger. So like
Right.
I took a loss,
Right.
but the business survived.
Another guy I'm going to be talking to later today had said something about I don't know if I'm the guy for this interview because it's just going to be me talking about burnout.
Yeah.
So I said real talk, we're all burnt out.
Yeah,
right now.
for sure. And like honestly, like, I still like what I do. I still love what I do.
Right.
But it definitely just changes perspective. And to me, like I think when you're young, you have ambition that's pretty like self-centered. Like you want to be a famous chef, or you want to cook the best. You want to be the most busiest restaurant. Like, you want these things like through the lens of like a quarterback. And I think like I was already evolving to like view things more like a coach. And I think that COVID kind of accelerated that. When you're literally worrying about your employees' safety and health and like, lives and like livelihood. So I think that like I feel like probably a better employer and a better chef from it. But yeah, I mean, like the workload was pretty insane, and I definitely. If you would have asked me last January, I was like ready for like a 2-year break.
What do you consider when you're interviewing a new line cook?
To me, the most important part of interviewing a cook is the working interview. It's the stage. So I mean, I've interviewed people. Some cooks have like some people are pretty introverted. A lot of people that like restaurants probably have some kind of like high anxiety or social awkwardness.
Yeah,
because,
it tracks those.
Yeah, you're kind of drawn to like this, like it's like a vampire lair, So like you kind of want to be like, working nights and like with a small group of people and like usually like really those that love food usually are interested in like hands-on focused jobs. So that usually is kind of introverted, in nature. So the working interview is the most important part. Cleanliness, organization, kindness, self-aware, of your space and working in tight quarters.
Right.
But that's it. I mean, honestly, I don't really even care. Like speed, finesse, all that stuff you can teach. Are you clean, organized, and kind? That's the most important part.
So your business model here relies heavily on like local products and seasonality. How has the recent supply chain issues affected that? You touched on it a little bit earlier, talking about scallop prices or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky to have this business model for the flexibility. So, a lot of food items like that, I'll see them coming or my vendors will warn me and I can just pivot. I mean, we were vegan for the whole month of August. We're vegan for the week of Thanksgiving. So that really gives us a lot of flexibility. But to me, like, I don't really care about the supply chain issue because I can pivot so fast.
Right.
So like I've never been. Usually the supply chain issues right now are like the highest popularity items, right? Beef, chicken, tuna, scallops. Like I don't care. I can just move on and away from those things. So that definitely keeps us flexible. And I shouldn't say I don't care, but like I'm not affected as heavily as others that like are known for a scallop dish or something.
Right.
So yeah, I think the flexibility that we have built in is just a coincidence.
So we were talking a little bit about traveling and bringing those influences in. Your menus are very modern with heavy French and Italian influences. Are there any other cuisine styles? We mentioned Middle Eastern. Are there any other cuisine styles that you haven't explored as much as you'd like?
Yeah, so obviously Japan for one. Like I had a 12-day trip to Japan that that COVID ruined. So like I'm due to go there as soon as they open it up. So I have a few friends there. So Japan is one region I would like to know more about. I spent some time in Vietnam.
Talk to your boy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, across the country,
Oh yeah.
But Vietnam. So I spent about 9 days in Vietnam, and I really fell in love there. So, and that was obviously in the Mekong area, Can Tho, and then Ho Chi Minh. So I'd like to know a little bit more about northern Vietnamese cuisine, coastal Vietnamese cuisine. So like, I think that there's just so much. I mean, that's like entering a new planet. I mean,
right.
It's like a complete culturally immersive experience. So I'd like to spend more time in Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, kind of that whole peninsula over there.
I've never been there, but I've dipped my toe in the culinary scene. One of my sous chefs is Thai.
Yeah, nice.
From northern Thailand. So he's shown me a lot, and just through my own studies, and like when I got the job that I'm at now, there's pho on the menu, and there's no way I'll be able to get rid of it. So I tapped Kim from
you gotta embrace
Da Nang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kim's amazing.
Yeah.
But even John R. right here, the road that we're on, it's pretty much like if you go like 11 to 14 mile, it's a really dense population of like Chinese and Vietnamese restaurants and businesses. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of great influence in the street. You can get a lot of awesome different dishes and broths and bakeries and banh mi's and phos. Mm-hmm. So there's this street alone just has like so many resources. I mean, 168 as that 14 mile, you can get you can go get snapping turtle right now if you want, like live. Right. I mean, it's like it's pretty cool resource just up and down the street.
Yeah, my buddy Bob calls that the petting zoo.
Yeah, it's a little aggressive. I mean, how many live animals are in there?
Right. Dot used to have a Saigon market of a friend of mine.
Yeah, Saigon market's still there. Yeah.
I don't know if he sold it or if he closed it.
I don't know who owns it now, but it's still there. Yeah.
Are there any cuisine styles that you find intimidating?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, especially when I travel, when you see, like, I was just down in Oaxaca, and when you see, like, because like you read like tlayudas or like this like large quesadilla on the streets. When you watch the tortilla makers, or when you watch like street food vendors, even how they make their ingredients, it's like you can't just see somebody doing something that they spend their whole life doing,
right?
And be like, I can do that. Yeah, like you really. Every time I travel, I feel like I walk away with like a new appreciation, but also that intimidating factor of like, wow, okay, I want to like use this inspiration, but like
I'll never be that.
I need to know my limits too,
right,
you know. And I think that like most, and that's how most cooks are. Everybody that's an expert in something probably falls very short in other things,
right?
Because they've dedicated so much time to that.
Yeah.
I was in when I was in Oaxaca, we went and visited these textile weavers, and they were like milling fresh corn into like masa, and like so we were messing. They were having me like, I mean, I couldn't even like mill it as half as fast as they could. I'm just like, and these like 65-year-old women just like they just done it 1,000 times. But even just the act of milling corn is art, But that's what keeps me engaged in food, is that it's a love language. Everywhere you go, people, it's like that's like one thing we share.
Right.
You might be completely 40 years apart, different gender, different part of the world. Don't speak the same language, but we can all agree as we're eating that tortilla that this is incredible.
Right.
It's a love language.
Yeah. So you guys do a lot of beverage pairing, and every restaurant that I've been to that you've run we're heavy on beverage pairing. How important do you think a strong beverage program is to a culinary operation?
Huge. I think it's a pillar. I mean, for me, I've tried to always employ a sommelier. I mean, we have always had a sommelier here, and to me, when I'm working with my sommeliers, they're as important as your chef is. So yeah, I mean, whether it's cocktails, beer, cider. I do a lot with cider, but even like it's not just enough to carry cool things. Like we have beers that were made specifically for us. We have ciders that I've collaborated on with like cider makers that I thought were cool. Hey, you guys should meet, and then all three of us come up with a cool cider. And so there's a lot of that kind of energy. If I'm passionate about something, I want to get all the way to I want to get to the fucking tree that's growing the fruit.
Right,
I want to really get excited about it, and then learn. I'm a forever student. So I know the more that I learn. I mean, I know nothing. In the history and scope of the world, I'm completely useless. I know nothing.
Right.
So I like to approach the world and cooking and beverage with that mentality. And I think when you do, of course, beverage is important. I mean, I went to La Pergola in Rome, and they had a water menu. And at first I was like, water menu? That seems kind of pretentious. And then I got it, and I was reading it, and it was basically the history of the Roman soldiers and the aqueducts and the wells that they found and the relationship with like natural aquifers, and like it ended up being my favorite part of the restaurant. It was a history lesson in like the construction of water supply in Italy. It's like, I mean, I was like, this is actually the most important beverage book I think I've ever held in my hands. And like, that's just, had I been, it's pretentious and not looked at it, well,
right.
I'd be none the wiser.
You just closed yourself off to that experience.
Exactly. So I really, like I said, approaching things like the Forever Student, I lean on my beverage team to teach me.
Yeah. I think the Forever Student mentality is very important. I think.
Yeah.
So everybody who's delved into the beverage pairing world has an aha moment, right? Because it's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't had that aha moment why those things are so important. Can you explain why beverage pairing and food pairing, why that works so well, and why that's?
Yeah, that's it's a great point. I feel like with a lot of guests, for instance, because I've been around food and beverage for a long time, so like my aha moments are, I still have some, but like the initial, the one that convinces you why you should get the beverage pairing.
Right. That's
probably a little bit in my rear view mirror, but for me, it's like when you have a white burgundy and like a brown buttered pasta, or when you have like a champagne and oyster, or like really charred meat with like, Bordeaux, and you're just like, whoa. These things taste like they were like together on a cellular level, separated and then reunited.
Right. Two pieces of a puzzle that just fit together.
It literally feels like there's some kind of reunion going on your palate that you didn't know you always knew.
Right.
And I think that to me is the aha moment. And really the easiest one for people, what we do here all the time is oysters and champagne.
Right.
That's the easiest one. It's like, acidity, salinity, it's effervescence with, the texture. It's just it's so simple. It's like sweet and salt, it just, they harmonize. And even like if you taste the champagne, you're like, that's not sweet at all. And you eat an oyster and you go back to it, now all of a sudden there's fruit singing on your palate, and you're like, wait a second, this was bone dry until I slurped that oyster, and now it's fruity.
Right.
Like that to me is the magic of the beverage pairing.
Right. You were on Top Chef, right?
Yeah, season 12.
Season 12. How did that affect your business? And is there still do you still feel that effect?
Yeah.
Being so removed from it now?
People talk about it. People are excited. There's a lot of Top Chef fans out there, so they like the show. Obviously, I did okay. I won a quick fire, won some money. I think I was eliminated like, I don't remember, 5th and 6th or something. It's like I was kind of like in the middle chunk of elimination. So like, definitely I wasn't one of the first 2 episodes to go home, which is always what you're afraid of, So like, I made it through. I think like and I was also sent home on a challenge that was like kind of like, it was like to me it was like debatable of like the level of severity. I didn't like go home serving like Jacques Pepin raw chicken. Like there's so many things that can happen on Top Chef that can just like make you just want to run and hide. Right. I didn't really have any run and hide moments, so I feel happy with it. I look back. I was 29. I don't even recognize that cook anymore to who I am today. So that was 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago. So like I've just changed so much in that time that but I'm very glad I did it. I think that what it really did for me was like it kind of like threw me in the pool to see if I could swim, and you realize how talented your peer group is in the country,
right.
And it kind of pushed me to like,
I need to be better.
Buy the new books, like dig deeper.
Yeah.
It just was it was a good calibration of how off my thermometer was, and I was like, okay, you kind of always know you suck, and then when you compete, you're like, okay, now I definitely know how much I suck, and I need to like improve.
Right.
So that was the biggest learning curve. That was my greatest takeaway, was knowing how much you suck. It's so important to know how much you suck.
Yeah.
Which is usually a lot. Like everyone sucks at something.
Right.
So like you got to know how much you suck in order to gauge how much you should invest and how harder you should go.
Right. And I have a philosophy in my kitchen that, like I always say, that I learn as much, if not more, from my cooks than they learn from me.
Totally. Totally. Same here, especially in a peer group of talented chefs. I ended up just like, it's like, well, I just like taking notes. I think I ordered like 25 books, just like right when I got eliminated, I went on like, I really went on a lobby computer because they take all your stuff away from you. And I was just like ordering like Amazon, all these books to go to my hotel room, and just immediately, and that's actually where I designed my concept for Maybelle. I basically drafted up like, I want to find an old Coney, preferably in Hazel Park, and do a tasting menu restaurant in a like Coney setting. And, and I basically came home and did it. So like, had I not gone Top Chef, I don't know if I would have Maybelle.
Right on. What kind of food trends do you see coming up over the horizon that are starting to peak that maybe not everybody's aware of yet?
I think that, like, you know, for me, I've been cooking a lot of vegan for the last 10 years. I've always done a vegan tasting. Even when you and I were at Shiraz, I mean, Viviano and I would do 4-course vegan tasting menus on like Tuesdays or something. So like, I've always done a lot of vegan cooking incorporated into my restaurants. I think obviously you look at 11 Madison Park has gone vegan.
Right,
like, you know, it's happening. I certainly didn't invent anything.
Right.
But the return on that investment for me continues to be fruitful. So I will continue to do vegan, and I think that there will be a larger audience that expands on that.
Yeah, I see it happening. Like out in Seattle where I'm at now, there are dedicated vegan restaurants that do really well.
Yeah.
And I went to one a few years ago because I had a friend out in town for our wedding that was vegan, and we went there, and it was way better than I didn't think it was going to suck.
Yeah.
But it was pretty eye opening.
You know, I always try to tell people, because I'm an omnivore, and I think as I get older, I kind of decrease my, you know, animal diet, and I increase my, you know, vegan diet. Mm-hmm. But we eat thousands and thousands of plant-based products.
Right.
I mean, if you think about like seeds, nuts, grains, you know, fruits, vegetables, I mean, it's endless. You know, the average person's eating maybe a dozen animal products. You know, I mean, the average American doesn't really get too crazy with their eclectic diet.
Right.
You know, so you're talking about, you know, land animals, maybe a couple bits of fish and dairy. Whereas, like, you know, the vegan world, I mean, it's endless. So I think that, like, when you actually like go to a vegan restaurant that knows what they're doing, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And you don't even really notice you're missing that center of the plate protein.
Right. Yeah. This place had a salad dressing made of like a vegan like olive oil salad dressing. They must have made it like Toom or something because it was as creamy as ranch dressing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, and we'll do so many different things. Like, I mean, there's a ramen pop up next door right now where they literally pressure cook like sunflower seeds to make their like kind of like tonkatsu style broth. You know, it's like there's just so many things going on that like, you know, like we do a macadamia ricotta. You know, we do like our cashew mousse is like as rich as, you know, as like any kind of chicken liver pate could be. You know, so there's a lot you can do in the vegan world.
Are there any trends that have outstayed their welcome in your eyes?
You know, I think it's mostly on the consumer side. I think that like the gluten-free movement is kind of like misunderstood. I think that people want to avoid gluten, that's fine, but like, you know, farro and sourdoughs and like, you know, there's certain things where I'm like, okay, like beer, let's not demonize all wheat, but let's definitely like put down the like, you know, the heavily activated yeast, the nasty, nutritionally devoid, you know, shelf-stable flours that, I mean,
right.
If you like mill a grain, it basically goes rancid because, you know, it's not meant to be sitting on the shelf. I knew a miller up in the Fenton area we used to buy grain from, and he said, flour is the ghost of grain. You're eating a ghost. It's devoid. It's structure, and that's it. If you really want to eat like grain, you know, you basically need to like mill it and like eat fresh flours. And if you actually eat a freshly milled grain, it's remarkably different tasting.
I can
like,
imagine that would be completely different
than like a hot dog bun, which is just
right.
like, you know, yeast, sugar, and like structure.
Structured sugar.
Yeah, and it's like that to me, like absolutely. If you know, or even like, you know, fast food pizza places, like that dough is pretty tough to digest. You know, you need like a gallon of water if you're gonna eat 4 slices of pizza.
Right.
So like, I think that gluten is definitely demonized. I also feel like you know, a lot of this like, I mean, you're still people that come in like, you know, keto. I think keto has its place, but I mean, it's definitely, I can eat all the bacon I want as long as I don't eat, you know, potatoes or something like that. It's like, there's a lot of misinformation out there that I think gets a little crazy. But I'd say the war against gluten is probably my biggest fight.
Yeah, like, I think most chefs would agree with that, and I think I would throw MSG on there too.
Oh, for me, MSG is like the most misunderstood
right.
seasoning agent in the world. I
right.
mean, like everyone loves nutritional yeast and ranch, but like
right,
you're eating MSG, you know?
Right?
Yeah, it's funny.
Are there any up and coming chefs you see that you would like to see grow and like get more attention?
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's quite a bit. I feel like you know, Detroit has such a unique melting pot. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot
I moved out of Detroit in like March of 2012.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of somewhat disconnected. Like I still follow the Eater Detroit. You know, I still try and stay plugged in. But
yeah, totally. It's
certainly
tough.
not as much as you are.
It's tough, man. I mean, like a lot of the chefs that kind of were up and coming. I feel like we're kind of at this like all the younger generation kind of got their restaurants and are established, and we kind of have like, I think the next generation is still in the kitchens of their chefs. So like, I mean, I have a great team that I'm excited to see what their futures are.
Okay.
I think you look at like, you know, Selton Standard and their sous chefs. So like, you know, you kind of see like, I think this next generation is kind of like, you know, buns in the oven still. So I'm excited to see what the next wave is. Hopefully once COVID kind of like levels off and the businesses and the inflation kind of like stabilize, I'm excited to see what's next, because it's like, it's almost unfair to the next generation of cooks that we're coming out of a pandemic where businesses were closing and it was a hot mess. It was a hot mess to be pursuing your culinary ambition.
Right.
You know, so I'm excited to see what is next. But right now, I mean, there's a lot of cool pop-ups. Val's Pizza's one in Detroit. Val's a really badass, you know, I mean, she's really a great young chef, but she's also been pursuing pizza for a long time. So she moved here from the West Coast, and like she does these pizza pop-ups. I'd say I'm most excited to see where Val lands, because wherever she goes is gonna. And she wants to go to Old Redford neighborhood, so like that's kind of cool, because I think wherever she goes, she's gonna kind of like enrich that part of the town. So like I think Val is somebody that I'll keep my eye on right now. But I mean, it's just a tough time for like young cooks. I think everyone's just kind of emerging out of their caves, you know, after this like. Is it safe to try to do a pop-up or open a business right now? Right.
You know? Yeah. So the restaurant industry is notoriously challenging, and those who excel put in a lot of time and effort. Like, we know this. That usually means a lot of free time, or not a lot of free time, and because of this, there are a lot of chefs who met their spouses or significant others at work.
Oh, yeah.
You've fallen into this category.
I do. You know, it's funny. We have 20 employees here, and 4 couples. Yeah. So we have 8 of almost half our staff is like paired. You know, paired. Yeah. And that was not. I think there's only maybe 2 of us that were couples before. No, I think it's just. Well, I guess Paul and Amy aren't here anymore, so it's 6 of us now. And myself and Sam, and then Paul and Amy showed up as couples. But the rest of us essentially met here. So Pauline and Adam, and then Kylie and Alex, like kind of like, you know, friends that basically realize you have a shared interest, shared lifestyle, same time off, same schedule, similar pursuit of goals. And I think it's very, very common. I think in our younger years, like hooking up is common. Right. And as you get older, I think like finding someone, if you're going to stay in this industry and you're not 21 just passing through, I think that it's probably, you know, time to find somebody that shares that goal with you, or at least understands the sacrifice.
Right.
So for me, Sam is my partner. We've been together for about 7 years now. And even as she doesn't deal with operations as much here, she's like Mama Bear. She kind of is like doing 100 odd jobs, but not like, you know, standing at the pass like she used to. But now we turned our backyard into like a farm. So we have a hoop house and 30 apple trees and beehives. So she kind of manages that, which is still part of the restaurant. I mean, all that stuff comes to the restaurant. So, you know, she's still in the agricultural food production game. So yeah, it's very important to find somebody that shares your vision and it really understands your sacrifice. Because people that work in this industry, man, it's just sacrifice is probably the number one word I can use to describe service workers, you know, industry workers. And you got to have somebody that understands your sacrifice.
Right. What that also, the flip side of that coin is you end up spending a lot of time in that person's face.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so, you got to make sure you have the right balance. And I think that you see a lot of front house, back house. That seems to be the more common relationship. That we're kind of a different.
There's a barrier.
Yeah, you're in different bubbles. But yeah, I mean, Sam and I cooked next to each other for 5 years, and that was it was. I mean, it was great. I wouldn't take it back. But I mean, it's more challenges than just like crossing each other at the pass. It's like standing next to each other, and then like having to like talk about things as a chef is like, hey, that's not how I wanted it. To your partner is a less than ideal conversation.
Right. So how do you keep those types of relationships from imploding?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Sam and I have evolved to where, like I said, she's more of like, kind of a restaurant proximity. She comes here, she writes the menu, she does like the plants and some of the decorations, and then so she's kind of always here, but also distant enough to have her own space, and we don't really need to step on each other's toes. So I guess allowing space to evolve and grow. If one partner's leaning towards pastry, or someone else leaning towards front house, or somebody else wants to get into AM baking and out of the nightlife, like you got to kind of allow your partner to be an individual and to grow and expand as they need to, and not not stifle them because you're on the same mission that you set out on.
So on the flight out here, I watched Roadrunner for the first time. You've kind of embraced that mythology, or not even mythology, that ordained setup of like the back of house pirate crew. But you seem like there are that can go down a dark and nasty path really quick. But you seem to have avoided that from at least from my perspective as an outsider. You seem to have avoided those pitfalls.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of alcoholism and drug use, and I mean I think that like many chefs, I've learned by making mistakes. I mean obviously in order to understand your level, you need to who hasn't drank too much in order to know how much you should not be drinking,
right.
Or who hasn't made bad decisions or done things that you regret. So, I mean, regret is a wonderful metric of your boundaries and your footing on who you want to be. I definitely don't walk around crazy regret, but doing things poorly is a great teacher of okay,
don't do that again.
Don't do that again.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, that's how most of us learn.
Right.
But I think it's important to kind of take notes on who you want to be and what kind of environment you want to have. So, I mean, I still have things that I kind of calibrate daily with people. It's hey, I didn't mean what I said, or hey, I didn't like the way that you talked to so and so, or hey, maybe let's not, I don't want to cook. Let's not drink cocktails at the end. You know what I'm saying? If a bartender gives a Coke a cocktail, I'm let's not do that. You want to have a shift beer when all the fryer oil is changed and the floors are dry. Yes, you can have a beer. You know what I'm saying? It's I try to walk that line of what's safe and responsible versus what's just that,
reckless.
Yeah, reckless and chaotic. And I think that for way too long in the industry, for me, I dabbled in the reckless and chaotic. And I think that knowing that, you kind of walk in that line, it's, where the boundary is.
Yeah.
So I have not been, it's not like we're all, going to bed early to go to church in the morning, but there's just a little more balance of what is healthy, sustainable, and positive for the future.
Knowing how to harness that energy,
Yeah.
and point it in a direction rather than let it just.
And unfortunately, it comes from, like I said,
regret and
staring
experience.
over the edge, being oh, okay, shit, that's where the edge is.
Right.
Let's not walk over there. And
Right.
I've had a ton of friends. I've had friends, suicide, abuse, burnout. We all do. Everyone knows somebody in this industry that has suffered some kind of casualty of this industry.
Right. So here at Maybelle, I feel like I've only eaten here once, but I feel like there's less of a boundary. We talked about that wall between front and back. I feel like here that there's less of that boundary than in other places.
Yeah.
There's less of a definitive line.
Totally.
Was that something that you planned, or was that just an organic outcropping of your business model?
I think, it was something I planned for sure. I wanted to have an environment where the cooks were involved in service and the servers were involved in the cooking. We're all pretty tight back here, so it's very intimate. The servers stand next to the cooking. They smell it, they see it, they can describe the dishes. Oh, the crispy skinned fish, this is how we do it. We started on the flat top, then you add butter. They can they see it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was very much on purpose. We do it. We're a pooled house, so the cooks get in on the tip pool. They're part of, they're part of the whole experience. They're busting, they're polishing wine glasses, they're chopping beverages, they're a part of it. So the whole team is the service team.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
And so you're an avid music fan.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything that you don't allow in your kitchen?
I'd say not really. Not really. I think that we can listen to everything here. It's a matter of tolerance, for long term. So for instance, I was actually listening to Dayton Family this morning by myself, which is 90s Flint, Michigan hip hop. That's not necessarily great for everybody right before service because not everyone wants to listen to Dayton Family. And I think it's an intensity that doesn't make sense for heading right into service. So Adam loves hardcore, so we'll listen to Knock Loose every now and then. But when everyone's here, I think the volume and the choice needs to be a little more balanced. I grew up in the sticks. I'll put on George Strait sometimes. Not everybody here wants to listen to George Strait. So I try to be respectful of that too. But I'd say jazz or kind of chill hop or more vibey music is probably what you're going to hear 2 p.m. to midnight, and then after service, and then before everyone gets here is usually when we get a little more eccentric.
Right.
But I listen to. We did a heavy metal brunch once where we just pretty much just blasted Dio for 4 hours, And so we definitely have some fun with it. But even if the crowd's really energetic, we'll put on like some more Big Crit or Tupac, or we'll kind of change it and vibe around. But usually jazz vibes are the big tone of the space. I think that everyone kind of can connect to that.
Right. I told one of my sous chefs last week. He just puts on a playlist. It's not even a curated thing. He just puts on a playlist and walks away.
Yeah.
And Creed came up. I was like, no Creed in my kitchen.
Every now and then I'll torture some people. When we're joking around, I'll talk about because I think a lot of the cooks nowadays in their young 20s, they don't know how Creed basically robbed Pearl Jam. So Eddie Vedder and his that was kind of unique then, and how Eddie Vedder kind of rippled through terrible 90s.
Right.
Godsmack, all these other bands that just sound like shit, that kind of took that and it became the sound,
Right.
Every song has and so every now and then I'll play 10 different artists, but it's all the same, look, it's the same song, and it's all, or I'll play some old shit that nobody wants to hear, but we'll just have a good laugh. So yeah, every now and then we'll put on Limp Bizkit or Creed just to be can you believe this was
popular?
I'll put on Nookie and I'm just what? Why? Although I think I always hated Nookie. I just was you just tolerated it. But I mean, I'm not mad at
everywhere at the time.
I'm not mad at Limp Bizkit, but I listen and I'm what the hell was happening in '99?
So I'm just gonna throw a few quick questions at you. Favorite season?
I'd say it's that micro season between summer and fall. I like when you have tomatoes still growing, peppers harvesting, but you can roast a pumpkin. So
right.
I don't even know it's pretty much the end of September, beginning of October. That fall summer crossover. That's the best because you can get away with it because there's gonna be a cold day where you can make a squash soup, but then the next day you can do tomato salad. That's the best of Michigan, in my opinion.
Right.
That little micro end of summer, beginning of fall.
And seasonality like that is something that I think it's coming back in restaurant world, but it was from the 70s to the late 90s. It was largely lost.
Yeah, I mean, it was ease and comfort and having a dish that it was getting your dishes that you're known for.
Right.
We do a steak au poivre here, and then you just always have it.
Right.
Or or a cream spinach or a tomato, stuffed tomato, and then you gotta always have a stuffed tomato, and but tomatoes are only good for 6 weeks of the year, So
right.
So yeah, I mean, seasonality has definitely been, especially this is an agricultural state, so
right.
It's very important to us here. But I think that the cool thing is the average consumers, kids in high school, have a greenhouse on site. Kids are more aware. Generationally, we're more aware of seasonality.
Right. And Japanese cooking, especially in sushi, the seasons are cut into 2 week chunks.
Oh yeah. Micro season.
Yeah. Favorite ingredient type, or specific.
Yeah.
Ingredient?
I mean, I really love pasta, so I really love and I don't even make as much pasta as we do pretty much sheeting, stuffing, rolling.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really get into extruding here. But I think when I travel, especially to Italy, I really get geeked out on different shapes of pastas, extruded versus rolled, different flours, different grains, the history, the names of I get really geeked out on pasta for sure.
Least favorite ingredient?
Probably commercial mayonnaise.
I've heard you.
I really don't like commercial mayonnaise.
How about when it's baked and served hot at a sushi bar?
Oh yeah, I mean, I eat it all. You'll go anywhere. Mayonnaise is everywhere, but
right.
I don't have it here. I've never had I don't think I've ever ordered mayonnaise, for the restaurant. To I think somebody got Duke's or something. We were doing something Southern menu or a sandwich or something, but I don't just have mayonnaise on hand. We'll just make an aioli if you want to.
Right,
I'll
exactly.
make one. I mean, I serve it all the time, but to buy Hellman's,
right.
I'm not mad at it. I don't ever find joy in eating it. And I don't really eat canned tuna fish either. The olive oil poached Italian jarred stuff,
or Spanish.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
But chicken of the sea, it's cat food, man. Get it away from me.
What's your least favorite dining style?
Probably fast food. I mean, I think people, I feel like fast food is has its purpose, and I think it can be fun and kitschy and celebratory, but people rely on it for sustenance, and it's definitely degrading the American population. So I mean, I'd say any kind of really over the top, unhealthy. When you see some of those chicken sandwich, chicken breasts are the bun with bacon.
Right.
Like, that shit's just like, it's out of control.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I enjoy fast food as like a treat, the same way I enjoy like smoking a cigar or something. I know it's bad for me, but it's nice every now and then. But yeah, the way to rely on it for sustenance is an unfortunate part of American society.
Yeah. I hit White Castle on the way to the hotel last
White
night.
Castle is not bad, man. I'll smash a jalapeno cheeseburger right now.
Oh,
that's the best.
the
That's
doubles.
That's the best one they make. Yeah.
Yeah. Mustard or ketchup?
I mean, mustard for sure. Ketchup is one, right? It's Heinz 57. That's ketchup.
Right.
Mustard is like, the rainbow. Right. So probably mustard, but I do like ketchup on my breakfast hash browns, and I do like them with like generic fries. So I will eat ketchup. I like some chefs are like,
I put Tabasco on everything that you.
Oh, me
you
too.
Would put ketchup on.
I love Tabasco too. Don't get me wrong, but I probably want mustard on more things.
Yeah. Completely shifting gears. Do you ever slow down?
No.
You seem very kinetic.
I go up north, and I have a house up in Eagle River, so I go up and I kind of like, but I drive 9 hours, and then I'm like tinkering around, and it's like, I wouldn't call it slowing down, but I enjoy life, man. I enjoy like being active and experience. Like I said, a forever student. I really embrace that. I feel like I wake up in the morning and I want to hear a new song. I want to try a new dish. I want to talk to a new person. Like, I just want like more, So I feel like I wake up every day like, hey, cool, it's a new chance to like do better, be better, learn something new, So I want more. But I mean, like, I definitely I appreciate downtime, but like my downtime is like mowing the lawn, or like walking the dog. It's like still active.
Right.
Sit on a beach and read a book? No, I can't do it, man. I really fucking hate it, to be honest. I was just in Turks and Caicos I think 6 weeks ago with my girlfriend because I wanted to take her to a beach vacation, but I ended up like going into town. Like, there's a shelter where you can walk dogs, so, like walk the puppy and like write menus, and like I just some friends rented jet skis. Like, I just like even in a nothing to do beach town laying around, I'm still just like, I'm gonna find a dog to walk,
So what's next for you? Is there something beyond this?
For sure. I think I like the UP. I want to do more things in the UP, whether that's like pop-ups or dinners or bed and breakfast, something permanent. It's a ways away, but like I definitely want to do something in the UP. Travel. I'm really excited about getting back to international travel.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, so
it's been too long since I've been to Japan.
We're going to Champagne in France. I'm doing Italy in April. So international travel is round one, and I do a lot of dinners based on those travels. I bring back a cool wine, or if I meet somebody and I fly them in to do a dinner, like that stuff's crucial to what we do here.
Right.
So I'd say, that's probably what's next for me for sure is like travel. Business wise, I'm kind of open to opportunities. So I will investigate opportunities, but I'm not like actively sketching my next business model.
Like you said earlier, though, it's kind of we're all coming out of the cave. Right
yeah,
now.
Exactly. It's kind of like we're all like wiping the sleep off our eyes. Like, okay, what happened? Who's
what's next? Who's still alive?
Yeah,
who's still around?
What's
still exists?
What's even a need in the food scene?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and once you get to Japan, like let me know.
Oh yeah, totally. I will.
I've got some recommendations, obviously.
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure Tokyo's on your list.
Oh yeah, for sure. My friend lives in Tokyo.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a friend that still lives in. A guy who was a translator for the class that I attended over there. I still talk to him. I spent some time in Osaka. Yokohama's right by Tokyo. I've been there a few times.
Nice.
So just let me know.
Yeah, hell yeah, I will.
So we're wrapping up. Tell us about Mabel Gray and what are your service hours? Where are you located?
Yeah, so we're Tuesday through Saturday. We do 3 seatings a night, so like 4:30, 6:30, and 8:30. We can do about 100 to 110 covers a day. It's pretty much our max. We are on John R., just south of 9.5 Mile in Hazel Park. You can book reservations on Talk, and we change the menu and our style all the time. So definitely look us up before booking. Make sure that you're picking, the right thing because we'll list like vegan tasting menu or there's a lot of activity. But yeah, I definitely recommend being a big fan of food and flavor. If you are picky or have a lot of issues with food, it's probably not the best restaurant for you. We get pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, that's something that I think all chefs deal with to some degree is people coming in not really knowing what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah. Well, it's like to me, it's like I often liken it to. I think about music all the time. It's like you you don't go to a Lamb of God show looking to hear some jazz. You know?
Right. Do you have any advice for somebody who's just starting out in this business?
Yeah. So I always, for somebody just starting out, for one, it's like it takes an immense amount of patience because you're probably going to suck at everything. Or if you do pick something up, and it's like beginner's luck, it's gonna be an ego blow to realize how bad you are at the next thing. So I think it takes an immense amount of patience, but like I would try to surround yourself with people who are encouraging your growth. So select your team and your mentors carefully and find the right restaurant that will let you blossom. And I've never chased the dollar. I made almost the same wage from like 17 to like 25. I didn't really see a boost, but I took the right jobs for the right people, and I got to know I learned my wine mentor is Madeline Trufant. It's a master sommelier. Matt Prentice was my restaurant mentor at the time. He had 13 restaurants. And he obviously lost his empire, but he learned. He taught a lot. It was a very transparent experience to what's happening. Yeah. So try to find people that will show you the P&L. They'll explain to you the business. If you ask questions and you find that you're getting locked doors, I would move on. So choose your mentors well, have an immense amount of patience, and be a forever student.
Chase the experience, not the pay.
Yeah, the pay will come. You can cash in for sure. I mean, you got to live. By all means, take a job that you can live off of. But a lot. If a job's desperately offering 30% more than everyone else, there's probably a reason why.
Right. And we see that a lot from new graduates of culinary school or new people in the industry. They start chasing paychecks instead of trying to grow their own skills.
Yeah.
Putting the pay ahead of, or they think they can become the next Emeril Lagasse right out of the gates.
Yeah, totally. And Emeril's an incredible chef, and that's somebody that he got famous at 40.
Right.
The guy spent his whole career dedicated to the craft.
Right.
And yes, you can be the next Emeril if you start at 14.
Right.
And don't do anything but work until you're 40.
Right.
And then at 40, try to cash in on what you've learned.
Right.
That's totally feasible. I think a lot of chefs do that.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate you, dude. You gotta get back in here and eat sometime.
Yeah, I do.